out some very good news today about money raised in the first quarter of this year. Candidate for Senate against Sheldon Whitehouse. Where's Sheldon, by the way? Oh, thank you, Sheldon. Barry Hinckley joins us now. Barry, good morning.
Good morning, Helen.
You got some good news.
Yeah, we had a fantastic quarter here in Rhode Island. I think the second best quarter a Republican has ever had in Rhode Island, really kicking off 2012, which is the regular season. You know, we did well last year building a great campaign, spreading our jobs message and reminding people and asking people what has Sheldon done for us over the last 5 years. And now that we're in the regular season, to have our message of jobs and private sector growth validated by, raising over $300,000 is just been great.
Yeah, in one quarter, that is fantastic. Apparently your message is resonating, Barry. It's getting out there. When you talk to people who are willing to, because it's tough raising money. You got to get out there and you've got to let them know what Sheldon Whitehouse hasn't done for them or stumbling blocks that he's put in their way and how you would be different. So your message has got to resonate with them. And are you feeling now that people are starting to really hear that and understand what you're all about?
Well, people really love the message, but people are also sort of a bit downtrodden. Let's face it, it's not 2006 anymore.
Right.
When Sheldon took over, unemployment rate was half of what it is now. Our federal government had $8 trillion, almost $8 trillion less in debt. We were passing a budget on an annual level like the Constitution says we're supposed to. All that stuff has gone out the window, and people have lost so much faith in their leaders, the politicians that represent it. It is tough to get people to have faith again, because a lot of people, quite frankly, have given up. Because when you send people like Sheldon Whitehouse, who has done absolutely nothing for Rhode Island and was last seen in the Philippines giving away a frigate to the Philippine Coast Guard, and they're wondering what's that got to do with Rhode Island, getting their attention and getting them to invest in a better future is difficult. But we did it because we have a great message. I
was recently listening to Larry Sabato. He's a pollster out of Maryland, and I think he's commonly known as a Democratic pollster. But he was on giving an interview saying that he thought the Republicans could take the Senate this year, which for a Democratic pollster to say that, I was a little surprised about that, but probably because people are so upset with the fact that the Senate, as you just said, Barry, has not gotten a budget passed. That is one of their responsibilities. So where is Sheldon in all of that? Why hasn't he urged passing of a budget? Where's his voice in that, especially since we're now number 2 in the nation, unemployment here in Rhode Island? Doesn't look like he's working hard enough to get us back to work.
Well, it's a good point, Helen. I mean, we know what's going on in Washington, D.C. Harry Reid from Nevada, who has, I think, the highest, his state is in the top, 3 or 4 in unemployment as well. Sheldon Whitehouse basically carries his water and does whatever Harry said, except, oddly, Sheldon voted against the Jobs Act last week, which no one really understood. Sheldon votes with this guy. This guy has shut down, this guy meaning Harry Reid, has shut the U.S. Senate for business. And unfortunately, when you shut the Senate for business, you shut the Congress for business.
Sure.
The House has passed almost 30 bills, job creation, deficit-reducing bills, which is what the people want here in Rhode Island. And Harry Reid won't even hold a vote on those. Sheldon Whitehouse endorses the fact that he won't hold a vote on these things. So Congress is closed for business, and by closing Congress for business, the unfortunate thing is you allow Barack Obama to run our country by executive order, and that is not the design.
Yeah, that's
fathers did not envision a president that runs the country by himself without Congress.
Right, and that's what this president is banking on right now. First, he was going to run on him against a do-nothing Congress, and now he's running against the Supreme Court. So apparently, this president does think that we don't have 3 branches of government anymore. No, it's just him, because he is the best thing that this country has ever seen, and he's the reason, he's the one we've all been waiting for. So now he's calling out the Supreme Court. That's, some people say that is a very dangerous precedent we're on. But again, Sheldon Whitehouse is a very reliable vote. Harry Reid counts on him. This president counts on him. So it looks like the Democrats, the more you start raising money here, Barry, they're going to start taking a look at you and go, well, wait a minute. Well, who's this upstart Barry Hinckley that thinks he's going to take our guy Sheldon Whitehouse out of Rhode Island? We got to make sure we keep him in there. So they're going to probably focus a little more money here, which means it just makes your job that much harder to get out there and get that money raised.
Well, not really. When you have a good message, people are bright enough to get the difference between a guy, Sheldon Whitehouse, that over and over has been preaching, we need more government, we need more taxes. He just introduced another tax hike. We need more government, more taxes, and more regulation, and that's the way out of our mess. People aren't falling for it anymore because he's been, a career politician for almost 30 years. Everything since Sheldon Whitehouse has gotten into the job of politics in Rhode Island has gotten worse. Nothing is better. People get that. They want change, and I have a feeling that we're going to continue building this great message across the state of Rhode Island and beat Sheldon Whitehouse this fall.
Well, I would say raising $300,000 in the first quarter is that is reflective to me, Barry. I mean, people put their money where their ideas are and behind somebody that's reflecting what the change they want to see. So I hope it keeps up for you. That's a great first quarter. Speaking of change, though, you had some change in your management this past week.
We did. We brought Pat Sweeney on board. As people know, the campaign manager slot at Hinckley for Senate has been open. We've been looking for the right person. When Pat Sweeney came on board, came available last week when he left the RIGOP, we snapped him up. We're really looking forward to Pat's experience, organizational skills, and connections here in Rhode Island to help us really get the word out. Very excited to have Pat on board.
Now, what was the problem with John Laughlin, and was that just a temporary position? Because there seems to be about 16 different stories going around out there.
Well, I've been running companies for many years, and you don't ever comment on departures. John was brought on as a senior consultant to help me become a better candidate. John's a great candidate. Of course, I'm a first-time candidate, so learning from his experience was very, very powerful. But it was clear we needed a campaign manager. That's why the spot was still open. John wasn't the campaign manager. And when Pat came available, we snapped him up. We're excited to have him on board.
All right. Well, that's your prerogative to not comment on why he's gone. Pat Sweeney now on board, joining your campaign, and he's got great experience, and he's a young, energetic guy. You got a lot of young guys. I was telling somebody yesterday, they were asking me about Pat Sweeney joining the campaign, and I said, one thing about Barry Hinckley, it reminds me of JFK years ago, where he brought all these very young, enthusiastic people on board because there's energy there. I mean, God knows you got to have a lot of energy to run a campaign. You're out there all the time. You're burning the candle at both ends. You're up early. You go to bed late. You try to get everywhere you can, and it's one of those, I don't know, just that kind of struck me when I was looking at the makeup of your campaign. It's just reminiscent of JFK, so just thought I'd throw that out there.
Well, thank you. JFK was the representative of, the working man and the working woman, and I think a lot of people realize that the Democratic Party today in Rhode Island no longer represents the working man and working woman. It represents the not working man and the not working woman, and we need to change that. And we are the campaign of the future. Sheldon Whitehouse is the campaign of failed policies in the past. People get the difference. The fresh new faces with private sector experience is the experience that is needed here in Rhode Island, and we're excited to carry this campaign into 2012.
Well, it's exciting for you, Barry. $300,000. Now you set a bar now, Barry. Now you got to keep it. Now you got to keep it going. But that certainly buys a lot of ads, and it buys some print ad, media ad, and you got to continue to get your voice and your face and your message out there for people that want to know what the alternative to the Sheldon Whitehouse coloring in the master lever for him, coloring in the little arrow on the ballot. Barry Hinckley certainly gives an absolute stark contrast to Sheldon Whitehouse. Barry, keep up the message. It's getting out there. It's resonating, and raising over $300,000 in the first quarter of this year certainly speaks to your ability to get that message across, get it heard, and translate that into support.
Great, Helen. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. We'll be talking to you soon. Yeah, that's, being able to raise money and having a message that people pick up on, that's significant.